Hello, welcome to my channel Badi's Tech Space. I'm Badi, and in this video we will create Microsoft Entra Domain Services, create a virtual machine, add the virtual machine to the domain, and log into the VM using the domain user. So in the cloud, an organization still needs traditional domain services like centralized identity management, authentication, and policy enforcement for their virtual machines and applications. So Microsoft Entra Domain Services is designed to meet this need by extending Active Directory switches to the cloud. So it allows you to manage users, groups, and computers in a familiar way, supporting legacy applications that require domain-based authentication without the overhead of managing the on-premises domain controllers. This is crucial for scenarios like lift and shift migrations, hybrid cloud setups where seamless integration between the on-premise infrastructure and cloud resources is required. So let's go ahead and start our setup. I go to Azure portal and in the search box, I'm going to search for domain services. I click on Microsoft Entra Domain Services. Yes, create Microsoft Entra Domain Services. Now, this is my subscription. In the resource group, I'll create a new resource group, say that I say enter domain. All right. And the DNS domain name, by default, the primary domain name of your tenant will be displayed here. So my if we go to Entra ID here, my default primary domain is this. So the primary domain, I will leave it here. The region, I will say Australia, East, fine. Enterprise, we have standard, enterprise, premium. There are some differences with the performance and the number of objects that the domain services can hold based on the SKU you select. I'm going to go with enterprise here. I'm going to click on next. So coming to the network here, it's a good practice to create a separate virtual network for Microsoft Entra Domain Services. Though it is not strictly mandatory, it helps with security by controlling traffic flow with network security groups and peering rules. So isolating domain services from other workloads can be done by separating the VNet. So it's a good practice. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to create a new VNet here. I would say enter domain is a VNet. I will create that here. Okay. I'm going to give and start with 2 here. Okay. And yeah. All right. Subnet. Okay. I said it's not default. Address range I'll get 2.0.0 dot 28. Okay. All right. So yeah, I selected the default. This is a new VNet I'm creating. I'm going to go to the next. So all global, these are the folks who will be notified for the warning and severity. So I will leave it as is. If you want any other recipients to receive this email, you can go ahead and add it here. So manage if you, this is a group which gets created, right? So if you want to add anyone in this group, you can go ahead and add. Next is the synchronization. You can, for me, it is only cloud. So here you can also filter it by selecting some groups here. If you have any group, you can go ahead and add any groups here. So, but I don't want to do anything here, so I will leave the AADDC default administrator group and this. I'm going to say next. Security settings, I'm going to mostly leave it as is. I'm going to click on next. I'm going to click on review and create. So my SKU is enterprise. My VNet is VNet Entra Domain. It's in Australia East. It's cloud only. Filter is there, but I'll left it with the default group. Now it looks like I'm good. I'll go ahead and click on create. So it gives a confirmation, asks for the confirmation that following choices are final and you will not be able to change that. And some of the things are your DNS name, your subscription, your resource group, your virtual network, and the subnet. So behind the scenes, it creates a lot of resources which we will go through in the next video. But in this video, we are going to create the Entra Domain Services. I click on OK here. Okay, it's submitting the deployment. This is going to take some time. So let's end this video here. In the next video, we will go ahead and add users in Entra and also look at the Entra Domain Services which we have created. Let's go ahead and create a virtual network which will host the VMs. So I click on virtual network, I click on create. I have a group named domain VMs. I'm going to say VNet domain VMs. Okay, I click on next. I will leave this as is. So here, the address range, you should be careful here. It should not overlap with the Entra VNet address space. The reason for that is we are going to pair the uh, domain VM's VNet with the Entra services virtual network. So if you recollect, we have given the address space as 10.2.0.0. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to start with 3 here. Okay, 16, yeah, fine. I'm going to click on next, next. Wait for the validation to complete. We are good. So we'll wait for this to get created. Let's go ahead and create a virtual machine which will be added to our Microsoft Entra Domain Services domain. So click on virtual machines and click on Azure Virtual Machine. Do I have any? Yeah, I have a domain VMs here. I will say, yeah, test domain VM. Okay, and first I'm going to select data center, the image here. So I get the region. I'll leave this. I'm going to say standard P2S. I'm going to give my username and password, administrator username and password. Okay. So I will allow this RDP. This is a test machine. I'm going to delete this, but it's not a good practice to open the port to the world. Okay. Apply your NSG rules properly. That's I'm going to go with standard. That's fine. Here I have this domain VMs VNet which I created. So in that default, I'm going to there's a public IP that will get created, which is fine. Right, rest all I'm going to leave it as is. Okay, nothing. I don't need to do this. We'll add the machine to the Entra Domain Services domain later. Click here, advanced. No, good. Let it validate. Okay. All right, as you see here, it says the same. All right, I'll go ahead and I create this VM. So before we go and add our VM to the domain, we have to do few things. Let's go to the uh, domain services which we have created here. So this is the domain services. It says configuration issues. This is because we need to update the DNS entries in the virtual network. So let's go to the properties. I'll, these are my primary and secondary DNS. So I'm going to take this and I will click on this network. I will, under the settings, I will come to the DNS service. I click on custom. I'll add primary, I'll add secondary, change it to 5. Click on save. So this is one thing which we should be doing. So I'll go back to the properties here. So as you see, this is my domain name, my subnet, VNet, locations, IP addresses, primary, secondary, external IP, synchronization is cloud only, admin group is our administrators here. So a secure LDAP is disabled. So synchronization, yes, synchronization is happening. And which groups it will synchronize right now? It is AADDC administrator. So what you can do is that if you have any other groups, you can go ahead and add. So I have created a no. So we can go ahead, we can create a group and add it here. All right, I will leave it as administrators for now. And if you can go and look at the health, and it will also tell you that last when it got synchronized. This is important because eventually when you create new groups and sync those groups users, and if you add a user and try to log in, it might not happen. They might not be able to log in. The reason for that is the user should get synchronized here. So this is important, as an admin, you make a note of this if the user is synchronized or not. Now, I'll go back to the overview here. Now, what I need to do is that I have to go and peer the network between the VM virtual network and the Entra virtual network. Now let's go to the virtual networks and peer the Microsoft Entra Domain Network and Virtual Machine Network. So let's go to the virtual networks here. I click on the domain VMs network. Under the settings, I go to the peerings. Here in the peerings, I'm going to click on add. I'm going to say peer with the domains VNet, and in the virtual network, I'm going to select as Entra domain. That will allow the Entra to access and also allow the forwarded traffic. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to say uh, Entra domain VNet, and I'm going to allow the traffic, forwarded traffic as well. So I am going to click on add now. So now what happens is that these two networks are paired. That means over the private APIs can be pinged and will be reachable between the networks here. So the next step would be to go ahead, go remote into the virtual machine and add the machine to the Entra domain services. Let's click on the virtual machines. test VM, and let's take the public IP address. I'm going to remote in here. Okay, remember the admin account which you have created. So I say sysadmin and give my password. All right. So let me get in this window. Okay. All right. So I'm in this VM now. So what I need to do is that I have to update the DNS entries here. So I go to the network here and I go to the DNS settings, and if you remember, I will go to the properties here and pick the primary and the secondary here. So I'm going to take this and go back to the VM, and I'm say manual, it's IPv4, and then primary is, what was that? What did I copy? 10.10.2.0.4, and alternate is 10.0.5. I'm going to keep it this way and click on save. All right. So that's it. I'm going to go to the command prompt here and say, I'm going to ping this. Let me go ahead, ipconfig, and flush the DNS. Okay. I'm going to ping the URL. So I'm able to reach the DNS server here. All right, that's good. So what I'm going to do is that there are multiple ways of adding the VM to the domain using the PowerShell command, AC command. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go with system properties here. Okay, what is that window? Edit environment. Let me go here. From there, I will go to the computer name. I click on change. I'm going to say AC skills hub.in. Okay, skills hub.in. All right. So now, if everything is good, it will ask you to log in using the domain credentials. Now, using which user I need to log in? So if you go to the synchronization, right, this group administrators are there. So now let's go to the Entra here. Okay. In the Entra, I go to the groups. I have a group named ADDC. There are two members in the group. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to the members, and there is a user called it's not so what we are going to do is that we are going to add a new user here. Okay, so what we are going to do is that I'm going to add a new user here. I'm going to click on users, new user. I'm going to say admin. Okay, all right. I'm saying admin user. Let it auto generate the password. That is fine. Um, let it see, remember what we have to do is that again out of this, and you have to reset your password. Okay, you have to reset your password here before you use this to log in. Okay, I'm going to create this user and add it to the group, administrator group. So I click on properties and say yes, the member is fine. Assignments, I'm going to click on add groups. I'm going to do add DC administrator here, add it to that group, click on next and click on create. So now this user, right? You use this user. Okay, let me refresh this. I have admin at azskillshub.com in. Okay, so now I'm going to take this and reset my password first and then add it to the administrator. Wait this user to be synced to the domain Entra Domain Services and then use this login to add the domain to the virtual machine. I will log in as admin here. So I'm going to say admin at azskillshub.in. Click on next. I enter the default password which got generated. Here I'm going to reset my password. Alright, I'm going to confirm my password. Click on sign in. Now I have reset my password. I'm going to do the rest here. Okay, like multi-factor authentication and also I'm going to set up yes. Yes. I'm going to use the QR code here. All right. I'm going to click on next. Yes. All right, I'm good. So now what we will do is that uh, if you go here, right? If you go to the AZ Skills Hub, uh, I have added a user, so the synchronization, if I go to the health, so this needs to be synced. Otherwise, it's not going to, the password also needs to be synced. So right now, if I give admin at azskillshub.in, if we are lucky and it got synced, it will happen. Else we have to wait for it. So good that it is synced because there are only few objects in the Entra. So now I have added this domain. Okay, we have to restart. But before restarting, I want to do something else. I want to say what that is. Now I'm going to close this. See, as you see, the domain is AZ Skills Hub. Now I'm going to do later. The reason is I want to go to user what's that? Add user, and I'm going to unlock this interface though. Here I'm going to go to the groups and I want to add, you see the remote desktop users here. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to click on add. I'm going to say because we haven't restarted and logged in using the domain users, it's going to again ask, the domain is already there, so I'm going to say admin and give my password here. All right, and I'm going to find now, I'm going to add my administrators, DC administrators. I'm going to click on OK. Now we are good with this. So this is fine. Now it's a time to restart my VM. Once we restart this, we are going to remote in again and test it. Let's remote in again here and test it with the domain user. Now that we have added everything, the entire setup is complete, I'm going to click on connect here, and I am going to say admin at az skillshub.in, and I'm going to say give my password and click on OK. See, so we are in the VM using the domain user account. So now, usually, some of the practices which organizations do is that we have a different user group which is dedicated for RDP users. Like for example, I'll create a group called RDP users, and I'm going to let me do that, and I can show you that, like I want to have a dedicated set of users who will be able to access the VM, log into the VM, and rest of the folks will not be allowed to log into the VM. So what I'm going to do in such cases, I go to the Active Directory, I'm going to go here, I create a group, and I'm going to say new group, and here security is fine, and I'm going to say RDP users, or RDP users is fine. Then enter for users who can RDP remote in. Alright, I'm going to click on create. So now I have created these groups, and I can go ahead and add the users whom I want to give the permissions. Now, once you have done this, you go back to the Microsoft Entra domain here and go to the synchronization. Click on add groups. You should be able to see the groups here. Click on select and here, and wait for the synchronization to complete. And if you add any users to this RDP users group, those users can log into the VM using their domain credentials. If you found this video helpful, feel free to give it a like and consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.